Greetings and welcome to the Mount Rushmore podcast. I'm Jeff, and guess who's here with me in the insane asylum? It's Richard
Boogoo boogity boogity.
and Michael.
Howdy.
I guess we're the sane asylum. And these gents are getting together with me via a remote video conferencing application to record our latest podcast, and that is the Mount Rushmore of non-dominant singers, songs performed by the non-dominant singer. This was my joint, but honestly, this is one that I thought, I know Richard and Michael love music, and I know they're very knowledgeable, and I think they might get into this topic of the person who's not the normal singer in the group doing the song.
No.
And,
Let's
Sorry,
let's
go ahead.
change. Normal is very weighted.
Dominant,
Non-dominant, because
non-dominant.
I
Okay.
definitely have choices of someone that is
Oh,
a
okay.
normal singer in the band, but not the dominant
This-
one.
and
I was
not
pulling my
this-
hair out, all my beard hair out, all my eyebrow hair, armpit
and
hair,
not necessarily
anything.
the submissive, not the submissive singer.
That's right.
Okay, well,
right.
let's just okay. Well, you've been before you pull any more hair out. Let's
Okay.
go ahead and start with your first choice, Michael.
Okay, my first choice, and this is the first one that I thought of when this came through, was Benjamin Orr singing "Drive"
Okay.
for the Cars.
Oh, cool.
And the Cars
Okay.
have a ton of very popular songs, and I think they're mostly identified with Rick Ocasek because he was like the main singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
But then I started doing the math, and Benjamin Orr sang about 36% of the songs, and Rick Ocasek did about 64%. That's a pretty, for someone who didn't even know this guy's name before I started looking it up,
Mhm.
that is pretty evenly split amongst like the person that we most identify with the Cars and with dating Paulina Porizkova and the other guy. So-
he had the majority of the hits.
Well,
Too.
what I read about, and that's the thing, is like
which
what I
I found
read.
surprising.
I love the song "Drive." It's kind of this weird, foreboding, kind of sad, kind of, I don't know, a little bit ominous sort of song, kind of romantic too, in a weird, strange way. I never really paid attention like growing up. I just figured, oh, Rick Ocasek just sung differently for this
Yeah,
part.
that's what I thought.
These songs like this and moving in stereo. Like I figured like, okay, well, Rick Ocasek sings like a weirdo in some parts, and then he sings regular. And it's like, no, this other guy, basically Rick Ocasek said, when I need someone to sing well, Benjamin Orr would come in and like sing the really beautiful, really melodic stuff. And it's like, I did all the other stuff. But, I think the split is interesting in terms of how much this one guy sang from them, and the split of like the seemingly perceived credit of what of how or maybe probably a lot of people perceive like, oh, that's a Rick Ocasek band and the Rick Ocasek fronted and the Rick Ocasek written. It's like, oh yeah, and the other one, but he sang a third of their songs, and that's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I said some of the big hits too, like "Just What I Needed," "Let's Go." You mentioned "Moving in Stereo." Was that him as well?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, those are. If you were to ask 100 people their favorite Cars song, I would say that probably more than half would choose a Benjamin Orr song.
Yeah,
which is wild.
definitely. Yeah, I think
Did he
also
sing the kind of
the music video. Sorry, the music video is confusing too, because like it starts out with like Benjamin Orr singing in like this empty room and it's black and white, but the rest of the video is all about like Paulina Porizkova and Rick Ocasek.
Yeah.
So it's like conceptually, okay, you see the guy singing, but like the rest of the song is like, oh, well, it's just Rick Ocasek and his supermodel girlfriend.
Well, when you got a face like Rick Ocasek, obviously you want to get him front and center of the music video.
This when Ocasek was passing, that's when I think we learned that he had been estranged from his wife for years, but she dutifully came to his side at the end of at the end of the in his last few hours, just probably to make sure paperwork is in order. But yeah, that was a confusing aspect of that video. Did you think Ocasek sang the dorky songs, kind of like the ones? Because I know he in some
Oh,
of
for sure. Yeah.
Cars in some of Cars music, there was obviously a new wave. Was this something that seemed fresh and innovative and untethered from precedent? But Ocasek did a lot of Buddy Holly goofball
Mm.
ripoffs. It seems like not ripoffs, but homages. And it seems like those were kind of things that he
Yeah.
sang.
Shake It Up was one of his that is kind of
Yeah.
feels kind of in part with
Hmm.
Buddy Holly or so. Yeah.
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 Okay. We're off to a good start. Now, I don't think we need to do this, but I always when I have a mental model for
Mm.
bands that have persons
Paulina
other than the
Porizkova.
drummer. She's the model in my mental mind. But no, I'm not gonna. That might be a giveaway for. I'm trying to think of other bands that have that same percentage, and maybe we can talk about that later. So, Richard Manfredi, what's your first?
All right, my first one is a song by a singer who was fourth on the depth chart in his own
Oh wow.
band in terms of being a singer, but number one in our hearts. I'm,
Oh,
of course, talking about Ringo Starr
Okay, yeah.
and Yellow Submarine by the Beatles.
also on my list.
Oh, right on.
How could it not be? Such a delightful song for kids ages 2 to 100.
Yeah.
Um,
Take that,
you
you
know,
1-year-old jerks.
yeah, you guys, your musical taste sucks. No, Yellow Submarine is Ringo basically got one song an album, where in the early years it would be something John and Paul would write for him. As they got a little further along, he started writing his own songs. I could have gone with my personal favorite Ringo Beatles song, which is "Don't Pass Me By,"
Mm.
which is just
Mhm.
the first song that he wrote solo,
Hmm.
which is just a bonkers song.
Yeah.
It's talking about getting in a car crash, and like the rhythm is all herky jerky, and there's this weird like fiddle solo in the middle
Yeah.
of it. It's kind of sounds like it's almost out of
Yeah.
tune.
Like a bouzouki or some kind of Russian folk instrument or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a balaclava just got knocked
Yeah.
down the stairs or something
Uh-huh.
like that. But I had to go with maybe it's the obvious one, but everyone knows Yellow Submarine. It's such a charming song, and I can't, even though it was primarily a Paul song,
Hmm.
I can't picture anyone else in the Beatles other than Ringo being able to pull off this song.
Yeah.
There's just something about his charming nature. And no, is Ringo the best singer of all time? Absolutely not. But there's something about his presentation and his performance that's just so warm. And he's the freaking conductor from Thomas the Tank Engine. You know, you want to believe him when he's singing about, his life in this yellow submarine. It's
I
just
think
a perfect connection of song and singer.
I think there is a goofy warbliness with his voice that he's with the Beatles. He sounds a part of them, but he doesn't sound polished. He's obviously the goofballiest of them all, or at least I don't know
Yeah.
the way he's always come across. I do like that one of the follow up songs that he sung was like Octopus's Garden. It's just like they kept the undersea, um, kind of imagery going.
What
It's
was
like
working? Yeah.
we got another one under the sea. You want to do it, Ringo? And he's like, okay,
Uh-huh.
whatever. This got to do with you got a starfish in as well. I don't know, but whatever. Is this a dolphin? Do you have a dolphin song? I can do dolphin noises if you'd like. But
That was a fun part to get back, is seeing him kind of write that, and they're kind of
oh,
looked at him like, "Yeah, Ringo, whatever."
um, but I think it is one of their it's not their best songs, but it's one of the most iconic songs. I mean, they based an entire animated movie and album around just the name of the song and the thing. My son has this like kind of dopey picture book that's called AB Lightning Bolt CD, like ACDC, but it's like ABCD. And it's like A is for Aerosmith and B is for the Beatles. The Beatles one that they have is like a picture of Yellow Submarine, and the song is like
Mm,
Yellow Submarine. It's just so
mhm,
iconically them and of a piece of this band that feels. I think like every aspect of the Beatles, there's a thing that feels like a, what's the word? Like it's all part of it. Like you can't take one part out and it's not them anymore. Like if you take the
mhm.
Yellow Submarine portion and the psychedelic portion out of their oeuvre of like music, it feels, I don't know. There's a big hole. The same way if you remove
Yeah.
like them in their suits in their early days, or you remove their kind of
Their
Indian
haircuts.
inspired their haircuts, or the walking across Abbey Road, like all these weird
Mhm.
things. It's like you remove that part of it. It's like, oh, that would feel wrong, and
Hmm.
maybe that's just like all four of them in general. Like you can't remove one piece and be okay with it. And Ringo, bless him, he has half a dozen songs or a dozen songs, and that's good enough.
Yeah, I feel like the song he should have sang on the lyrics on Sergeant Pepper should have been, "I get by with an ample amount of help from my friends, an extreme amount of coaching and musical support from my friends." Uh,
Even with his solo career. No, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
people.
George.
He had George writing songs for him, John writing songs for him, Paul coming in to do studio work. Everyone basically has said, I think maybe it was George who said, we worried about Ringo after the Beatles broke up,
Mhm.
more than any of the rest of us. So everyone wanted to kind of chip in to help make sure he was successful. And ironically, he was the one who had the most commercial success solo initially.
Hmm.
His songs were the ones that were getting number one singles when everyone else was kind of putting out Ram and
Yeah.
doing these kind of like more, like
Phase, yeah, yeah.
easy type stuff. Yeah.
Plastic Ono, this and yeah, yeah. Do you is what role did Benjamin Orr play in the Cars?
He was the bassist.
Who's the bassist? Okay, so Ringer's our first
I mean,
drummer,
he was a funny one, and then Rick Ocasek was the
the cute one,
the cute one. Yeah.
the dreamer. The and what I find fascinating, I saw the Smithereens play live once, and at the end of the second set or whatever, oh no, it's basically second encore. They let the drummer sing a song, and it's kind of like almost like letting the goalie skate around the rink a little bit
Oh,
because
nice.
Yeah.
they're the one who does a lot of has a lot of leadership and has a lot of responsibility, yet they're kind of stuck back there. And maybe they're figuratively, or maybe to the band, they're really a like, not that everybody isn't important, but they're really almost like the kind of the field marshal, keeping everything going along with the bass player too. So it is interesting, these characters who slide into prominence. And this, we're thinking about I'm thinking about live, persons who step forth into prominence when reality is, as a drummer, you're really pretty prominent the whole time. So Michael, this, I guess, yeah. So you've got Yellow Submarine. So this was going to be your third, I guess, before or do we go to halftime here?
Well, I
No,
guess I'll get to my second.
Richard gets to go to number two.
Okay, okay.
You've been doing this for 7 years now, Jeff.
Come on, Jeffrey.
I don't know. I'm off on another planet right now.
What planet?
Let's
Curious.
bring hey, let's bring the drummer in to host the Mount Rushmore podcast. Skippy,
Yay!
Stumpy.
All right.
You
My
explode.
second choice, speaking of drummers,
Okay.
would be Don Brewer from Grand Funk Railroad taking
Oh
his
wow.
turn on We're an American Band,
Wow.
a song that will let you know exactly who is coming to your town and what they're planning to do, which in this case is party down. This was written at a time when Grand Funk Railroad was kind of under the thumb of a particularly onerous lawsuit with their former manager, who was trying to keep them from actually touring under the name at that point it was Grand Funk. So they were broke and needed a hit. And apparently, Don Brewer was drinking one night with the guys from Humble Pie, and they got in a friendly argument about whether British rock was better than American rock. And Don Brewer stood up and said, "Hey, we're an American band." That
Hmm.
night, went back to his hotel room, thought that's a good starting point for a song, and this dashed out the song about their experiences as an American rock and roll band. And all of the after show parties and groupies and everything that came along with the lifestyle back in the 70s.
Hmm.
And yeah, he was not the full time singer. That was Mark Farner was the lead singer, but because Brewer had written it, he got to sing it, and they had a huge hit with it, number one hit, and it kind of saved their careers and kind of launched them into the, for a short time, stratosphere as one of the big hard rock bands of the early to mid 70s. Produced by Todd Rundgren, who
Yeah.
just sort of this like Zillig type guy who just sort of
Uh-huh.
pops up at these weird places in rock and roll history.
Yeah. I
You
remember
know?
hearing Rudgren talk about the responsibility to get a hit out of Grand Funk, and then saying that their album sales had been okay, but they wanted to be respectable, or they wanted to have like rock critic cred, like like Zeppelin had enjoyed somewhat, or other acts had enjoyed somewhat, or Creedence, had
Right.
had
And then they
enjoyed.
and then they came
So
out with the biggest, dumbest song you could
the
possibly
dumbest
imagine.
song, but
God
they got
bless it. It's just a chunky,
yeah.
big fat riff type song. I'm more of a rock guy than I know Michael is, like in terms of like
Mhm.
probably like hard rock. And this song speaks to me. This song is like right in my wheelhouse of 70s kind of classic rock.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. She had the whole band, and that's a natural fact. They like some of the lyrics are just like, oh God.
Yeah, these are not lyrics that would pass the muster in
Yeah.
2023.
This is
Absolutely not.
one of those songs that seems like it was perfect for 8-track tape cassette player. It just has a big fat fat bass sound to it.
I don't remember if this was on the soundtrack to Dazed and Confused, but it
Uh-huh.
sure as hell should have been.
Yeah.
I do know
Yeah.
it was on the soundtrack to the movie, Jeff, you may be familiar with Spirit of 76,
Oh yeah, the Red
starring
Cross.
Red Cross. They
Yeah.
even they even name check uh, Grand Funk in the script. You don't know Mark Farner, Don Brewer, Grand Funk Railroad.
Doesn't Homer Simpson, if you want to know more about Grand Funk, go to your local library. Like he's trying to educate his kids on, on rock
Yes,
and roll. um, okay. Now we are legit at our halftime. Am I right?
yes,
Okay,
yes, we
cool.
are.
Okay. So yeah, for whatever this halftime's worth, we still do it, and we still implore you to give us topics and to share our podcast and to enjoy what we do here. But if not, give us feedback into it. You can do that just about on any of the places where it's being hosted. Are we on YouTube too? We're on
Yes,
YouTube,
we
Believe,
right?
are.
yeah.
We're on, yeah.
Yeah. I think I told you this, but I've learned that YouTube is the second biggest, most popular search engine. People look for want to buy a sweater, they go on YouTube. So I'm glad we're there in case they want to buy a Mount Rushmore. Okay, so we're back, and Michael, give us your third.
Oh my goodness. My third choice is the song Numb by U2 with spoken word vocals by The Edge.
Oh,
Oh
wow.
God.
Um, Not an incredible song, obviously not a well sung song. It's not even sung at all. It's The Edge just
It's
kind of mumbling,
yeah, spoke
kind
mumble.
of uh,
Hmm.
straightforward, not a lot of intonation in his voice, kind of saying a lot of don't think, don't da 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 da. And then every
Hmm.
once in a while, Bono comes in, is like, free your mind, and all this stuff. Can't sing. But it's so weirdly iconic as a U2 song, especially of one of
Hmm.
like from 1991, 1990.
Is it off of Zooropa or is it off of Achtung Baby?
I don't know. Probably either one of those.
I will look
Which
that up.
I'm okay. I would say that probably Octoon Baby came first, and then Zooropa came later. But it feels more
Zooropa.
Zooropa.
Zooropa-ish.
It's off of Zooropa.
But it's just one of those weird songs that, like, at some point they decided that this was going to become like a single as well. like usually they save this stuff for like a B-side, or you save it for just like, oh, what's it? It's just a weird song that you happen to like, and then somehow it was like, oh no, this was played all over the place on like MTV, and um, it probably helped that the video was pretty graphically straightforward, with just like the Edge sitting there as people come in and out of the screen and start licking his face and start barking, apparently, like my dog does, and people kind of just doing weird things to him as he is like, physically numb to everything around him, you know. But uh, I don't know. I just think that like where U2 can be a pretty emotive uh, band with pretty, I don't know if you say call them heavy lyrics, but they're very like I think that that Bono is uh, a very emotional person, and so like for the Edge, who is like the what is he? Is he the bass player? Or is he a guitar player? Yeah, he's a guitar player.
The guitar player.
Yeah.
Um, I don't. I was trying to think if there was any sort of connection to the background people being the background singers being bassists and drummers, as if that was like, I don't know, a connective tissue through all this. But for a band that usually sings about kind of heavy things and emotional things and weighty things, to this guy just sitting there kind of mumbling through it all, and a song that got anybody can karaoke. I mean, talk about a song if you want to get up and karaoke. Don't worry about it. You got it. Anybody. Anybody's got it. But I don't know, just an interesting thing for them to highlight as a single and to highlight as a performance, I think is quite interesting.
Well, Zooropa was a weird album because it was like I think sort of based off of everything they went through in the Zoo TV tour and this idea of media overload and oversaturation. And so it was meant to be an album that kind of like overstimulated you with all of these like sounds and stuff happening kind of off in the background. And, the whole idea of being numb, kind of being numb and desensitized to everything that's happening around you is kind of central to that album. So I could see from that standpoint why they would choose that single as representative. At the same time, it's a really weird fucking song.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of all the songs that you've chosen, have any of them been backed by unrest within the group? Like, oh, let me sing or else, that you know of, or so
No,
far?
I don't think so. I think so far. I mean, everyone wanted Ringo to have a song. The kind of Benjamin or Rick Ocasek split was pretty standard in the band.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think of Ringo. Was it his first album effort was Boys? Like,
Yeah,
okay, let's sing this. Let's sing this song that a girl group would sing and just not change the lyrics. Okay, then Richard, what is your third?
yeah. My third choice is the song "Tempted" by Squeeze.
Oh, I knew you were gonna pull that. I've just been remastered those songs. So
Yeah,
B-side story.
East Side Story, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So sung not by Glenn Tilbrook, the normal singer of guitarist and lead singer of Squeeze, but by Paul Carrick, who is the ultimate rock journeyman.
Mm-hmm.
He's just somebody who's just been around, man. He was in a British pub rock band called Ace, who had a pretty big hit on both sides of the pond with a song called How Long? How long
Mm-hmm.
has this been going on? That one. Was later the keyboard player for Roxy Music for a while after Brian Eno left. And then was kind of after Jules Holland left Squeeze, he came in for East Side Story to be the piano player and keyboard player. And they had written this song, Chris Difford and Glenn Tilbrook, the songwriters for Squeeze, had written this song, Tempted. And they actually recorded a version of it with Tilbrook singing the lead. But according to them, it was just kind of like faster paced. It sounded a little bit like ELO. But they thought, okay, we're done with it. Put it away. Well, one day they were kind of just messing around with the song and they kind of slowed it down like half tempo and gave it a sort of a blues rock kind of workout. And Elvis Costello, who was producing the album, came out and said, "That's great. We need to go with that. And Paul needs to be the one who sings it." And
Ah.
Paul Carrick's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I can do that." And Glenn Tilbrook said he was a little offended with that at first. So maybe this is our first minor bit of nose
Hmm.
being put out of joint with this. But after they got the track down, he said he fell in love with it and realized that no, Paul Carrick was the perfect person to sing this song, and because he's got that kind of like white blues rock voice
Yeah.
that kind of just worked perfectly for this song. And it became not. It's funny. It didn't become like a huge hit even in the Squeeze compared to other Squeeze songs, but it just had a ton of staying power. It's just one of those songs that over the years has just become sort of an alternative rock from the 80s kind of staple,
Hmm.
even though it wasn't necessarily a big hit in its time. And Paul Carrick was only with Squeeze for that one album. He left after East Side Story and went on to have a couple of solo hits here in the US and also sang with Mike and the Mechanics. So just a really fascinating guy, just somebody who's just has had a lot of success, but not somebody that you look at and go, "Oh yeah, rock superstar Paul Carrick."
Yeah.
Just a
So
guy,
Boy,
you know?
boy, Mike and the Mechanics is such a great name for a band that I wish I knew anything about. I feel like they at some point could have had such a bigger career, but
Well, they
not.
were just a side project. I mean,
Yeah.
Mike Rutherford from Genesis had some songs he wanted to get out there, and when you've got Phil Collins sucking the air out of the room at every opportunity, I can imagine it's difficult to get your songs
Mhm.
when he's coming up with Susudio. How do you compete with that?
I don't know if it was in the Elvis Costello book or there's something said that Difford and Tilbrook both took a crack at it.
Oh,
Um,
did they?
yeah, and no, I mean, you're more authoritative, but I just remember hearing
Well, I think
that.
no, I think Elvis Costello is more authoritative than me.
Well, I don't know if it's that book or not, but, what remains in that song is little cameos from all of them because I think there's like you had pointed out, I think on another podcast, uh, "Need to Keep on Riding" is Elvis Costello.
That's Elvis Costello, and
Y
then the Tilbrook has like a line or two in there.
Yeah, yeah, so it's a kind of they kinda all chime in on that track, and I think that's a lot of fun. You know what's funny though? I think of the UK we experience rock groups as this kind of like, well, like the Mount Rushmore, these kind of 4 heads that are kind of bound in stone. But I know musicians, they're playing in different bands, playing with different groups. They buy
Right.
songs off different people. They're listening to it in a demo. It's kind of a more fluid thing on their side of it very frequently. Like a band is in a way, it's just kind of like something that almost like the record label mandates. Well, this is what these are the people are getting paid for this thing. Um, yeah, so I think that's a great choice because it's such a soulful, such great like kind of blue eyed
Yeah,
soul.
Blue Eyed Soul sort of song.
Yeah.
And I could have, with Squeeze, had chosen Chris Difford for Cool for Cats. I actually debated that one and went back and
Hmm.
forth on which one made more sense. But I think overall, just the just just this odd, guy coming in for one album, literally singing one song, and it might be the song Squeeze is most well known for.
Yeah.
Just a
God, it
weird
just
thing.
just seemed like somebody like you pull up, to the playground on your new bike and somebody else grabs it and starts popping wheelies with it and it's like,
Yeah,
come on, man. You jerk. Winfield, what's your final choice?
My final choice is the song "Step Into My Office, Baby" by the band
Okay.
Bell and Sebastian, as sung
yeah,
by their guitarist Stevie Jackson. Um, Bell and Sebastian is kind of this college pet project of Stuart Murdoch out of Scotland, who they're kind of this very indie twee sort of band. And the majority of the lyrics, the majority of the songs, the majority of music, everything is written by Stuart uh, Stuart Murdoch, and they're usually very heartfelt and very writerly and very I don't know, very religious and very much about his, I don't know, his own personal stuff. But then in 2003, they put out a band or put out an album called Dear Catastrophe Waitress. And this one song really stood out amongst a lot of the stuff, a lot of what was on the album. And it was called Step Into My Office, Baby. And it was very playful, and a lot, it's like the lyrics are very built on all these puns about somebody working in an office and staying late for work and getting ahead by sleeping with the boss, and a lot of sexual innuendo and fun and kind of silly and very different than anything else that I can ever recall that Bell and Sebastian had put out before. All their stuff seems to be built on like this kind of prose and kind of schoolboy uh, angst and religious uh, 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 life growing up and all these things. And there's just this silly little song about about sleeping with your boss to
Yeah.
get ahead. And it wasn't like the first song that he had his vocals on, that he had sung on. But it was the one that really stood out to me as like, oh, this is, it's not the lead singer, but it's different, it's fun, and it adds just a new dimension to this band that doesn't feel like it's just the lead singer, or doesn't feel like it's one of the other. They've had a couple of female kind of take the leads on songs. Isabel Campbell, who left after about a decade in the band, and I can't remember the name of the other girl. Sarah Martin, I think, is her name.
Is it
Uh,
Bell?
it's not. You know what's always confusing is they took the name Bell and Sebastian from some book that was later a cartoon, that like a child's book or a child's cartoon, and one of the people in the band, like the girl in the band, was Isabel Campbell, and it has nothing to do with anything. It was just the name he chose.
Coincidence?
Yeah, coincidence purely. But I don't know. He comes in and he sings all these really, like, just a lot of the fun songs are like all the stuff by Stevie Jackson, and it's just like I love when there is just like one of the band members that just adds a different spin. It's, it's the Ringo effect. It's that they're part of the band. They've always feel like they've been part of the band, and then there's just a dimension of this band that's just different because of what they're singing or how they're singing, and yeah, it's great.
That's
Bell and
really
Sebastian. Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
no, lay it on me, man.
Oh, I was going to say Bell and Sebastian were one of those bands that I always like read about in the Tower Records Pulse magazine. You guys remember this? This was the
Yeah.
magazine that came out every month at Tower Records, like the freebie. And it felt like the type of band I should get into, but they never played them on 120 minutes, or very rarely did.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I got the impression that they were a very dour kind of Morrissey-ass type band. And then I go back and now I listen to them. I'm like, why didn't I like them more when they came out? They're certainly a band that I feel like I missed out on when they were making records.
Well, they have a new record coming out in 2023, and had one that came out in
Yeah.
2022. So you
Nice.
can still get caught up. I mean, it's wild. He's, in his mid to late 50s now, the lead singer, which is just like, that's weird. And we've seen him in concert a bunch of times, and they're a great. It's funny because there are some bands that are like that are almost these weird, like, conglomerative sort of bands, like that have anywhere from 5 to 8 members. I don't know. You think of like this weird like thing that the Beatles kind of established or helped to establish, where there was, you got the drummer and the guitar player and the other guitar player and the bass player. They probably didn't even establish it. It was probably established long before, but that kind of became like, oh, well, if you're going to have a band, you need these 4. And then you can throw somebody on a keyboard. You got a 5th person. But like, they're like sometimes like an Arcade Fire type band where there's like 8 people in it. And they're like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, it was a
many people do you-
college project.
Yeah.
Like
College. How many
a
people
thing.
do you need? Do you need a violinist? Oh, I guess we got a cellist in the band now. Okay, was that? They only play the glockenspiel?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. It
Let's
does
get
sound
them.
like it's
Let's get them on the microphone. Let's get them singing about something. Okay.
But the only thing
yeah.
I really knew about Bell and Sebastian was Piazza, my New York Catcher.
The sports, all only their sports related stuff.
Yeah, that was the only thing I really knew about them.
Hey, a great thing to do, and this is something I like to do every year with like one band or a couple bands. I always have a New Year's resolution to like uh, start with the first album and just listen to everything. Like just put them on through like Spotify or put them on through like Apple Music. Just
Yeah.
listen to a full discography of like just a whole band and see where they started and see how they where they got to. Even if it's like, man, I'm gonna do it again with like The Cure, and like I'm dreading getting to like the end of the last couple of Cure albums, and it's just like, oh, I'm gonna do it.
Mhm.
I'm gonna start with Three Imaginary Boys and get to whatever the last one they put out 15 years ago.
Yeah, they've got an album out this Friday. Bell and Sebastian.
Yeah.
There you
Nutty.
go.
Okay. Yeah, it does seem like one singer and then 10 vibe merchants who are there with a little rhythm egg, tambourine. Okay, Manfredi, the final choice.
So when Oasis were recording "What's the Story," "Morning Glory," Liam Gallagher, the lead songwriter and guitar player, went to his brother Noel, a man who he famously once referred to as a fork in a world full of soup, and gave him the choice of two songs. One of them he could sing, and the other one Liam would sing. Would be like his song to sing on the album. Noel Gallagher chose Wonderwall, which in hindsight, good choice.
Yeah.
The other choice wasn't too shabby either, and that's my last choice, which is Don't Look Back in Anger.
Oh God, yeah.
Just as Beatlesy of a
Yeah.
song as you could possibly have.
Yeah.
A one of those things where you hear him do the song and you're like, he actually a better singer than Noel Gallagher?
Mm.
I think he might be.
Mm.
But Noel had the star quality, which is why it made sense that he was the lead singer of the band. Just kind of had that sort of like it factor, I guess. And I just remember Liam. When I think of Liam Gallagher singing, I remember uh, them performing their MTV Unplugged special, and Noel Gallagher claimed to have his voice had gone out, so he couldn't sing. So Liam Gallagher had to sing all the songs instead of him. And Noel Gallagher hung out in the rafters, getting pissed drunk on beer and shouting, heckling Liam the whole time. Pretty much the most Oasis thing that could possibly
Yeah.
happen. But just a great song that I have no idea what it's about. And I've sung the song at karaoke several
Mhm.
dozen times in my life at this point. Still don't know really what it's about, but it feels like it's about something, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, man?
It's funny because with the title and the lyrics, it's the sound is Beatlesy. The "Don't Look Back" is Bob Dylan-y, and "Back in Anger" is like Brit angry young man,
Movie,
60s.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, boy, what a good choice. Was it Wonderwall? What was the one that was chosen to be like the song that represented Britain or something like that? Like I think it was an
I think it
Oasis
was
song.
Wonderwall, yeah.
Wonderwall. Yeah, that's really interesting because like now that's a band in which definitely the singer has an antagonistic relationship with the person that they're kind of eclipsing momentarily.
Yeah.
Um,
And who they have to rely on to be able to give him the words and lyrics the music and lyrics that he's going to sing.
yeah,
I mean, let's be honest with both of them. Neither of their solo careers or other bands, Beady Eyes, High Flying Birds, whatever it happens to
hmm
be, has kept come anywhere near as close to what they've done together in Oasis. And it's
yeah,
just sad. It is very sad that they personally just could not get their shit together and continue to make really amazing music.
hmm think with them it was like the Blasters were kind of like that, right? It's kind of like
Yeah,
those Alvin brothers just kind of couldn't get it. Bands they just couldn't get it. Didn't the I think
the Kinks
uh
are another one.
the Kinks didn't they go on tour with the Black Crowes? And I think those guys don't get along too well either.
No, they don't either. Well, they
Yeah.
didn't for a long time. They're back together.
Are they?
It's a
doing
nice,
reunion
a nice little mini Rushmore of
Yeah,
Bands with
yeah,
brothers hate each other.
bands
yeah,
of brothers hate each other. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart and Larry Mozart, like they were just like, oh.
At each other's throats the whole time. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's pick some. That was that's just guys. Thank you so much because I knew you would make a meal out of this, and you sure did. We'll go with Ringo and Yellow Submarine because come on, it's Ringo, and okay, I didn't know.
I do
about...
like this. Richard, I love when Jeff uses a "come on." I would love Jeff as like an actual judge, just in a courtroom, just like with a hammer coming down, like he's guilty. What
Your Honor,
come on, you just
Come
come on.
on.
And then
The
everyone
defendant,
looks around in the courtroom. They're all nodding, right? They're mumbling. He's right.
Yeah.
He's right.
isn't that a Joe? That's a Joe Bidenism. Is it? Come on,
Yeah.
come on. Okay, Ringo, because come on. Well, let's do Benjamin Orr because I didn't realize. And then Squeeze Tempted because it's such a great song. And then okay, we're going to Look Back in Anger because Double Come On.
The rare double come on.
The rare double come on. That is like when something gets like appealed to the next court.
Right.
Yeah.
And the
Double come on.
Supreme
Double
Court
come on.
comes down with a double come on
Yeah,
by
I
a
think
5-4 ruling.
that's a John Mellencamp. Come on. All right, dudes. This has been the Mount Rushmore of songs sung by the non-dominant singer. We didn't pick Polyphonic Spree.
No, we didn't. Well, yet again, for the 348th episode or whatever we're on, we did not pick Polyphonic.
We are the non-polyphonic spree podcast of record.
What are they doing? This is Jeff.
This is Richard.
I'm Michael.
Hi, Larry. Oh my God, Larry! Finally.